Gia, Gia. All right, everybody, we're going to get started in about another minute. Just going to wait for everyone to come into the room and chill. So got a little background music, and we'll get going in just a tiny bit, all right? Just keep kicking with us. All right, everybody, what's up? Welcome to another live stream with B-Teezy. Finally got everything back. I don't know if you know, my goal is to do this once a month with you. I know other channels have live Q&A or Q&As, but I like to do it live. I like to keep it raw. We do it on the spot. I have my whole setup here. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of you who have been supporting me, whether you're watching the YouTube videos, whether you're listening to the audio podcast, or even, I got to do the plug, if you're jumping on and supporting the Patreon here. And it's important for me because this is how I'm completely independent. So if you go to patreon.com/Brian Tong, you can check it out. It supports the audio podcasts. It supports all the videos that I'm doing. And it really just allows me to keep on doing this, which is pretty awesome. Also, just let me know, because I am doing this on my own. I don't have anyone monitoring any of this stuff. Just let me know in the chat whether you can hear me okay, when the sound is all right, or if like weird stuff is happening, because this is like one man banding it. So welcome. Thank you to the Q&A live. What I want to let you all know is that you can ask questions directly in the YouTube chat, which is really fun, which is it this side of me? This side? No, this side over here. Right over here. Wow, look at all those great comments right there. So the other way that I really want you all to get involved, though, is if you can call the show. So I set up a number. If you look down here on my little graphic, call in at 844-811-9561. This allows you to kind of drive the show and have any questions that you want. Otherwise, we'll go off of questions in the chat, which can be kind of crazy because of everything that's going on. So Happy New Year. It's a great way to get started. Thanks for coming out to the live chat. I think that what we want to do, all right, yeah, I did hit up on the wrong side earlier, is maybe just to get some conversation starters going. Some of you may or may not have seen my video that I did just recently about like what Apple should do in 2019. I think it's a great way to kick things off. And while you're watching this, I would love for you all, again, be a part of the show. Don't be shy. Like, I know y'all got a phone, okay? I know y'all got a phone. So call 844-811-9561. Apple World, I see you, bro. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, so I'm going to play this little video. This is a Q&A, but I really want it to be about what you all want to know about. CES is coming in about 6 days now. I'll be there, jumping around the show floor. Also, obviously, what we have in store from Apple. So let me just see if I can pull this up properly because I'm doing this by myself. All right. All right, and let's watch this. It's a little long, but I think that it's worth watching. Okay, let's do this. And this video is about the things that Apple needs to do better in 2019. And you know what? I absolutely want to hear what you are thinking as well as we go along with this video. And you know what? I can't do the amazing things that people at Apple create. I will always be the first to admit that. And this isn't just to complain and rip on Apple, but it's more of an honest look at what they need to do better in 2019. And if you're a soft fanboy that can't handle this and just takes things personally,
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
You should probably leave now. All right, let's go. And we know Apple has built a powerful ecosystem. It's really what keeps many people in it, even if there's better hardware somewhere else. But once your family's in it, and then your friends are in it, you stay in it, and you know what? It's not bad. But Apple needs to make major improvements within this ecosystem. And the number one thing they need to blow up and start over is Siri. I've been saying this for a while now. Blow it up. The future is really voice first, and Siri doesn't cut it. And I know there's many of you that say, hey, Siri is great and good enough. But honestly, if you've seen and experienced what Google and Amazon are doing day to day, you just wouldn't say that. Now, to this day, Siri still can't handle multiple queries to tell it to do two things at once. It can't handle different voices from multiple users and then manage their calendars and reminders separately. And it still needs to get a whole lot smarter. Like, it was introduced back in 2011.
What is the weather like today?
And just got the ability to handle multiple timers. But beyond that, the weakness of Siri really just trickles down to every Apple product. It hurts every Apple product. And that's why I get so fired up about it. Like, if anyone knows this, Apple knows this. Just think about it, right? The HomePod would have been significantly better on launch if Siri was better. The Apple TV would be better if Siri was better. And yes, the iPhone and the Apple Watch too, everything would instantly be better with a better Siri. Now, I get it. It's going to take time. They hired Google's chief of search and artificial intelligence this year, and something like building a whole new smart assistant platform doesn't happen overnight, even in a year. But it has to happen, and if there's really one thing they can do in 2019, it's to help set things really in the right direction with a fresh start and a new Siri. And I can dream, but come on, Apple, how about 2020 at the latest?
Buddy.
Hey Siri, show me my life goals list.
I found 10 reminders.
Thank you very much.
Now, another place where you're limited by being in Apple's ecosystem is the smart home. And the smart home, we know it's exploding and only getting better, but what was Apple's answer? HomeKit. And guess what? Like you, I thought it had promise when it launched back with iOS 8 in 2014. But in classic Apple fashion, they kept it very locked down, and it needs to get better. For example, today, HomeKit supports roughly 500 plus smart home devices. But then let's compare it to Amazon Echo. Their platform supports over 12,000 smart home devices. The Google Home, over 5,000 the last time I checked, and it's probably even more by now. Apple HomeKit, 500-ish. Apple, they need to open it up. They are so behind that they need to just give up this walled garden approach this time around if they want the smart home to really be relevant for them. Many Apple users said, screw the Apple ecosystem and just jumped on board with Amazon and Google. Apple had them in the first place, right? They had them all, but the combination of a lackluster Siri and HomeKit has really hurt them and will hurt in the future if they don't address it.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, there were rumors in the past, I think about a few years ago, that Apple might be working on an Apple TV that was the center of your home with voice recognition and smart home control. Apple literally had all the pieces in place, and it could have been a killer product, really. But guess what? Siri was weak, HomeKit support was weak, and then they decided to work on a home audio speaker with audio being the priority. Several years later, we got the $349 HomePod, while Amazon absolutely just took their lunch with the Echo. Now, the current US smart home market share numbers from Strategy Analytics have Amazon at 63%, Google at 17%, and Apple at 4%. Apple needs to do better than this in 2019. And I know that was already a whole lot, but are y'all still with me? You still with me?
Yeah!
Okay, I'm going to pretend that I heard a yes in the background because I've got a lot more to go. Next up, the iPhone. And I know this is easier said than done, but for 2019, let's bring back an exciting iPhone. And maybe I'm around it too much, but I don't think I'm alone when I say this year's iPhones felt pretty uninspired. Yes, it's an S year, but really, what did we get? A slightly improved camera and a more powerful processor. Honestly, do you really feel that the iPhone XS is that much faster than the 10? It wasn't enough for me to upgrade, so that's why I stuck with a 10 and returned the XS. And it really wasn't worth the jump from a 10 to a XS. But for people using earlier phones, for sure, I get it. The jump was worth it. But okay, I said bring back an exciting iPhone, so I got to back up how they can do that. So let's look outside at what Apple is doing, and I'm looking directly at the Samsung Galaxy S10 rumored 10th anniversary edition features. Now, we've heard in-display fingerprint scanner, an edge-to-edge screen as pretty as you can get on a phone right now, pretty much all the way to the sides, 5G connectivity, and a potential quad rear camera. And okay, yes, these are rumors, and you can either poop on Samsung or admire what other companies outside of Apple in the tech world are doing. But as an Apple fan, you're telling me that you don't want any of that in your phone? I don't think so. An all-new redesign of the phone doesn't need to happen for me to say, really, this is exciting. But the first thing that they can do to make me really happy is get rid of the notch. And I know you're all like, come on, why you got to complain about that? Look, this is my wish list, not yours. You could type it all you want in the bottom, but they've got to get rid of the notch. I don't want it there. And some of you are all like, oh, eye rolling like this again. But some of you are all like, yes, absolutely, get rid of the notch. But beyond that, if I want to be excited about the next iPhone, I want Apple to show me their vision of what ARKit can be for them. Something that makes it useful for us beyond Pokemon Go and really integrated into iOS that brings real utility and function to us. We know the goal, like way down the road, is for AirKit to drive some sort of Apple glasses wearable. But if you've packed all this power into the iPhone already, let's use it, right? Let's see how you connect the dots to this new platform that you're building together. And a triple lens rear camera, sure, could be coming. Cameras will continue to get better. USB-C is a no-brainer and eventually coming. Phones at this point where software and unique features are really going to drive them, even sometimes more than hardware will. But let's see what Apple's vision of ARKit really looks like. And then since we're on the topic of hardware and software, we've got to talk about one of my personal favorite products, the iPad Pro.
I have a Pro. I have an iPad. iPad Pro.
In 2019, I'd like to see even more features brought to the iPad's iOS that gives it more functionality. My dream, of course, is a true hybrid iOS, but we know that's probably not going to happen. Apple gives the iPad's iOS a big feature bump really every 2 years. 2018 was definitely not that year, and if this is really a laptop replacement like Apple wants it to be, let's get some level of file management with external storage directly connected to the iPad Pro with read and write ability. I don't think that's asking too much. And Apple, you've got to be honest with yourself and make a better keyboard case than what you have, even if people are buying it. It's had the same feel for the past 2 years. I tried Apple's keyboard case again, but returned it because the rubberized keyboard feedback doesn't feel good at all. Honestly, Logitech's was superior last year. And what about multiple user profiles? We've asked for that since day one. Okay, but also even more pro apps will hopefully come in 2019. We know Photoshop is in, and I'm excited for it, but Apple, support your own hardware with your own pro level apps. This is the third year I'm asking, and I'll keep asking until it happens, okay? Yes. All right, let's bounce around and talk about services. We're expecting to see Apple's TV show and movie streaming service come out sometime in 2019, and I'm genuinely curious. I'd like to call it cautiously optimistic to see just how this turns out. The acquisition of Texture this year looks to be shaping into Apple's own news and magazine subscription service as well, but I still don't think it's too late for Apple to do a subscription TV package to be part of the Apple TV. Now, we know they lost a huge opportunity a few years ago because they wanted the networks to agree to their terms, and instead those networks made agreements with PlayStation Vue, Sling TV, DirecTV, and YouTube TV, but Apple should have their own because it benefits the Apple TV. Now, if everything I talked about in this video, let's like rewind and put all the pieces together, if they magically came together like, whoa, okay, think about this. A completely rebuilt and smarter Siri, widespread support for smart home devices, and an over-the-air Apple TV subscription service while being the only streaming box on the market that supports Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos sound. That's the killer product that they could have had, and it's still not too late. Come on, Apple TV 4K Max. Make it happen. And no, they should not call it that. And finally, I've got one more thing. Yes, this is a long video, but I think you're all on board with this so far, right? You're all on board? You're here. You've been here for how many minutes now? Let's talk about my favorite Apple product of 2018, the Apple Watch Series 4. It took them about 3 years to start figuring out what to do with it with the Series 3, but they've really nailed it with the Series 4. WatchOS is great now. We've got an ECG on the watch, and Apple is going to continue to push this even further as a health monitoring device on top of what they've already done. But if you want the icing on the cake for me, I've asked for it since day one, and no, it's not a round watch face. I want a FaceTime camera on the Apple Watch Series 5. Like, I want the Dick Tracy watch with FaceTime calls in 2019, and it would truly take the Apple Watch to that, like, next level. No one's going to touch it, right? I know it's just my crazy ask that is within reach, but will probably never happen because, come on, Apple doesn't really think like that anymore. But for 2019, I would love to see that. Oh my goodness. Okay, do it for me, Apple, like hearts right here. All right, that's enough for me, but I really want to hear what you think Apple should do in 2019. What do you want to see? Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you completely disagree. I say let it all out in the comments below because you know I'm reading them. And if there's enough good stuff, I'll put together a video of what you all want in 2019. And if you've seen my videos, you enjoyed this, you know the drill. Thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, bing, so that you can get notifications in your pants or your purse when I drop the next video. And if you'd like to go even deeper, check out my AppleBits XL audio podcast for more stories each week. You can help support the podcast and everything I'm doing. It's all independent at patreon.com/Brian Tong. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you for staying all the way to the end of this video. There was so much to talk about, but I want to hear what y'all think. All right, until next time, take care.
Woo!
Okay, we are back here in the house. Love it. Like, that worked out great. We got some people that are calling in, so I think this is really a great conversation starter. What do you guys and gals want to see from Apple in 2019? And you can call in to talk about it, or you can ask some questions. We have 3 calls in the queue now, so gentlemen, I believe I have a call screener, and basically it's like an automated thing, so you talk and tell your name. So hopefully it got it right. It looks like I've got Eric here who's been waiting for a while. Eric, can you hear me all right, buddy?
Yep.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you.
So, what you can do is if you listen to the phone call and not the live stream, will be actually talking. So just kind of ignore the live stream. But what question you have, bro?
Okay. So I just wanted to know, do you think that Apple will implement USB-C this coming year, or probably not?
I think, well, right now, from all indications that we have about the current iPhone, look, USB-C is going to be coming to the iPhone. Whether or not it comes this year, I think it could still be up for grabs, because a lot of what we've heard, at least very early on, is that the iPhone 10 itself, it's going to be pretty much relatively the same form factor. And so because of that, I think that could lead us to possibly them not making that switch over yet. My hope, one of my goals is that, or one of my things that I talked about on the wish list is that, yeah, USB-C should come to the Apple iPhone. Where right now we're in that weird transition spot where some devices have USB-C, the MacBooks, the iPad, the new iPad Pros, but then you have the iPhone that still doesn't. So to me, there's a lot of benefits to it. Does it take away from Apple's licensing and royalties that they get from the iPhone 10 or from the Lightning connector? Absolutely. But my hope, and we'll flip a coin on it, is that it's coming this coming year. But because they aren't changing the form factor, according to rumors, we might have to wait one more year. So that's kind of where I'm thinking right now. I mean, what do you want? Do you want it here right now?
I do, yeah. Just because all the devices are there, like the MacBook Pro, the Nintendo Switch, everything.
Is there anything that you personally would like to see from Apple, whether it just benefits you personally or just in general for 2019?
I would probably, more realistically, I would say that maybe a new AirPods with some more like volume controls on them. That would be nice.
Yeah, that's definitely on the top of my list, right? Being able to touch and swipe on them and use them that way.
Yeah, no, for sure. But thanks for taking the call. I appreciate it.
Eric, you're the
You have
first
a great
call.
show,
Your
by the
first
way.
call of 2019, bro. I appreciate it so much, and thanks for watching and everything.
Thank you. Thanks
All
for
right.
taking it.
Awesome. All right, cool.
All right.
Eric, thanks again calling to us. We're going to take another call that while we were waiting. Oh, whoops. Let's see. Let me get this. Come on. There we go. Okay, let's take this next call. They've been waiting for about 8 minutes. I don't have the name, but I guess the screener said Oakland Sunshine. Let's see if we can get in here. What's up? Welcome to the show.
Oh, that's me. That's me.
That's you. That's you. Who is this? Who am I talking to?
This is Anthony T, but you got it right. That's Oakland Sunshine.
Anthony, my man. Thank you so much for calling. Welcome, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Brian.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So what's up?
Man, so I am a recent lover of Apple products myself, and I got into the Apple probably around the iPhone 5, and the Lightning port is awesome, and the fact that we had the headphone jack, everything made sense. But now that they took away the headphone jack, as a trainer, I use wireless microphones. I attach so many accessories to my phone for video. So why don't they just add a second port? It makes all the sense in the world to me. Just add 2 Lightning ports, or a Lightning port and a USB-C port. We took away the headphones. Just add another port. It only makes sense, in my opinion, if you're going to use the iPhone for professional, things like that.
Well, I think you make I think you make a great point, only because I think the issue more than anything is obviously it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm sure Apple would squeeze in another port if they could, but there's really no more space. There's no more space to put a port. It's either going to be a Lightning or a USB-C, and I think that, yeah, I think everyone would like the best of both worlds. I don't care if people think it sounds stupid to say like, oh, why are you still all about the headphone jack? I just personally think it's still okay to have one. Plenty of other manufacturers are doing it. It's okay, but I get it. I get where things are moving. I'm not resistant to that. I just think it's okay to still have a headphone jack. That's all.
Exactly. And with the phone getting so big, why not? You're adding more space to the phone anyway, so just throw it back in there. Like, just give us that.
You're like, I'm a new Apple fan, but I'm already frustrated. And I think what's really going to be interesting, what's going to be really interesting, Anthony, is that Apple, there was just news about how their projections of their phone sales dropped, and we can talk about that in a little bit, but I think you're going to see a new Apple in the next 2 to 3 years really figure out that this culture of being or acting kind of as the arrogant one and really pushing consumers to the limit to charge really high prices on products that, quite honestly, from a technical standpoint, don't necessarily measure up to what other companies are doing. But the ecosystem does have value. I'm just saying, is that really a $1,000 phone 2 years in a row? I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. And that's why a lot of people like myself haven't upgraded from a 10 to a 10S. And I'll touch upon some of that in a little bit. But Anthony, thank you so much for calling. And whether you like or love Apple or don't, for everyone that's watching, listening, like, we're all about one love for tech. I mean, it transforms our lives. It does so many amazing things. So, I hope you're a part of that, not only just Apple, but outside of Apple as well.
For sure. But I do love their services. I will say that. I appreciate them for holding classes, to teach you how to use the phone and use the products that they have in the app. So thank you, Apple. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate the call.
All right. Appreciate it, Anthony. Happy New Year, my man. All right.
Happy New Year.
All right. So we got 2 calls. You guys and gals are awesome. The lines are filling up. I'm going to stick around pretty much. I'm going to give this until really the calls slow down. But I wanted to also show some love for people that are asking questions directly in the chat. And it is my duty, hold on one second, everybody, to show love to the chat. So, you know what? Just so you all can get your screen time on here, we can see you. I see you all in the chat, and you're like, wait, that was so long ago. I know, it's a long time ago, but I got to show love to you all. All right, let's go into... I almost touched my MacBook screen to try and talk to the next person. Let's take another caller. If I'm correct, this says Grandma calling about the Apple Store. Grandma, are you there? Oh, Grandma, I know it's coming soon. Hey, Grandma, you can talk to me through your phone and not watch the live video if you just talk to me directly through your phone.
Hello?
Hello. Oh, this is not Grandma. Who is this?
That mean your Apple device got my name wrong. It's Dion.
It's what is your name?
Dion.
Dion, you know what it is? I have a screening program that is not Apple. It's just a screening program that automates this. So, Dion, a.k.a. Grandma, welcome to the show. What's going on?
Yes. Let me start with a bold statement.
Okay,
I think Apple needs to ask Tim Cook to step down and let Steve Wozniak come back.
Ooh,
because
really?
they lost their way in innovation. The only thing Tim Cook knows about is pricing and stock.
Yeah,
and right now he started a horrible trend in the tech space on overpricing tech that isn't worth it, and everybody has followed it.
You know what, Dion? I think first of all, you make a great point. I mean, I've been talking about this for years for people that have listened to my content or have seen it or followed along with me. Look, Steve.
Yeah, I follow along with you from CNET days.
Yeah, and so for example, oh, you said the C word. I'm just kidding. But for example, right? First of all, you can't replace Steve Jobs. No one can. And I've always said this, that Steve Jobs,
you're right,
obviously an amazing genius, a mind unlike any other. But also, one of the things that I kind of joke about is that he was a hard driving person, and I guarantee you the mood and the atmosphere, other than the past couple days inside Apple, I'm sure it was a lot more relaxing. Tim Cook isn't that hard line driver. Tim Cook is a supply chain manager. He deals with margins.
That's right.
He deals with the numbers. And to exactly your point and what we've said before, you can see how this evolution has now happened, where there is innovation, but there's been a lack of real, true, new categories, new innovation that really is like, oh my gosh, I haven't even thought of this before, and I want that. And we know that's hard. That is why Steve Jobs is special. But Tim Cook doesn't have this. A great example of it, and that I have, is, look, Tim Cook's first project or first real device with Apple was the Apple Watch. Now, it took 4 years for the Apple Watch to get to where it is today. But what makes it interesting to me is that it took 4 years. So what happened is the Pebble watch came out. Everyone was like, we need to make a smartwatch. Every company jumped on it. So guess what?
Yeah.
Of course, Apple jumped on it. When the first Apple Watch came out, quite honestly, I'd be the first to say it. It wasn't that great. It really wasn't. I didn't really use it that much. I even sold
true.
it back. The second one was all right. The third one started really showing me something. Now the fourth one is where it's at. But it took 4 years for them to
For
figure it out,
generations,
right?
yeah.
That's a long time for them to really figure it out. And again, you and I, maybe you can, but I'm not the person that's going to say, hey, I can build this myself. I'm a fan who loves tech, so I appreciate everything they do. I'm just saying, and what you're saying as well, is that
Same here.
from the top, the identity of Apple has clearly changed, and the past couple of days, and we'll talk about Apple's projections and what they blamed on lowering their projection is on. But it's a great example of how they don't have a visionary. And quite honestly, I don't even think Steve Wozniak wants to be that guy anymore. I think he's good. I think he's happy,
Yeah, I
commentating,
think so too.
and everyone was saying, hey, Johnny Ive is the innovator. Quite honestly, if you've looked at the past few years of Apple products, Johnny Ive was great because Steve Jobs gave him like a specific list of stringent requirements to fulfill, and now he's kind of like going on in his own thing. Yes, they have a great team, but Steve Jobs drove that company. I don't want to harp on the whole SJ, but it needs to be brought up and talked about.
I think Johnny Ive is a great designer. He refines stuff, and like you could just throw ideas at him and he gonna refine it. But I think the big ideas used to come from Steve. That's where the big bold ideas used to come from.
Yep.
And I think that's what our companies that can, because if you look at the tech space right now in smartphones and you see like Xiaomi and Huawei and stuff like that, if Steve Jobs was alive right now, with all the advances that they have in tech, I would not want to imagine the iPhone, what we would have gotten if he was alive.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting and what is really compelling is, look, the mid-range Android phone that has hardware features that match up to Apple's in a lot of respects, but isn't a $1,000 phone, is becoming that kind of that playground of space where people are migrating towards, or they're just not upgrading their iPhones because they don't need to.
Exactly.
So I think
because right now I still have my iPhone 6S. So the 10 didn't impress me as much as I thought it would have, and the 10S and the 10X Max is the same thing. So why would I really upgrade?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. How about for you, Colin? Thanks so much for the great call, Dion. Anything specific that you would like to see from Apple, specifically for you in 2019?
I would love to really see them really go hard on the iPad. Like not only the iPad, but really revamp iOS on a whole. Like give us a brand new iOS.
I think that a lot of people are wanting that.
Give us that file management we need on the iPad.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that want that.
This could replace my computer. You have to really give me everything so I could replace my computer.
Yeah. I think it's a great. I think I think they've kind of fallen into that. I don't want to say trap, but they really push this whole. It can replace your laptop, and now people are like, okay, then show me that it can replace my laptop. I think they've actually kind of driven that narrative, and now it's like it doesn't necessarily. It can to a certain degree and a certain type of user, but not for that. Everyone, look, Apple is a mass appeal, mainstream consumer company now. So when you say that, you really got to deliver on that.
You really got to mean it, because everybody looking for this. Okay, I'm gonna throw my laptop out the window, and I'm gonna only use my iPad. And when they start to only use the iPad, they're like, well, maybe not.
Yes, sir. All right.
Because even what you were saying about the keyboard on the Google tablet is better than the Apple one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, hey, Dion, thank you so much again for calling in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
and Happy New Year. All right.
Same to you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so there you go.
Right.
That's our friend Dion. We've got 5-6 callers just hanging out waiting. So let's take this one. It looks like we're going to talk to our friend Felix. Felix, if you can hear us, just talk directly to the phone and not to the screen. What's up? Welcome to the B-Teezy's Q&A Live.
Hey, Brian. Happy New Year, first of all.
Happy New Year.
And I have like 3 options for you.
Okay, well, let's see how many. Let's see how good the first one is, and then I'll see if we can get to number 2. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so do you think that the iPod Touch needs an update, like on a whole redesign and internals, or do you think it should be discontinued?
I think, I know there's a sweet spot for people with the iPod Touch. Look, the sales numbers show that although it had a place in time for people that don't have a phone that still want all the capabilities, I think that time has passed. So for me personally, even people like my nieces and nephews now, they're getting phones and or they're hand-me-downs of previous phones from their parents. So I think that is kind of honestly more than anything replaced the iPod Touch. And for me, I don't think they should bring it back. That's just how I feel, though.
Okay. And one more thing, do you think that the 12-inch MacBook needs like an internal upgrade, like upgrade the processors from an M3 to an i5 as the base?
Yeah, I think, well, look, I think when we saw the specs of the new MacBooks that they released, they weren't that impressive. So I would expect that, I would hope, look, the new generation, the 8th gen Intel chips were just recently showcased, and they are pretty much prime and set to go inside of the new MacBooks, whatever comes out in 2019. So we'll wait and see if they do some sort of refresh. But it wasn't, if you looked at how it compared spec-wise, it was nothing like earth-shattering. And at the same time, the entry-level MacBook, it doesn't necessarily need all that power, but I wish it did have a little more power. So.
And the iMac, I think like the iMac kind of needs an update on their processors because it's still a 7th gen. They start the base with a dual core. I mean, like they could just have an 8th gen dual core at least, like kind of upgrade the processors, give them more RAM as a base, like a 16 gigabyte or something.
Yeah. I mean, they could definitely do something like that. I think that would be great. So, did you have any other questions? You know what, the call screener thought you wanted to call about papayas. It literally says, "I'm calling you about a papaya." Did you have any questions about a papaya?
No, but I still have one more. Like,
okay, what's up?
Yeah, the Android phones. Like, I'm not saying about the OS or something.
Yeah.
Front cameras where they say like, this phone has like a great massive 20 megapixel camera and something, but the iPhones still have like 7 megapixels. So do you think of probably increasing the quality like around to 10 or 15 megapixels on the front?
Well, you know what, when you talk about front-facing cameras, I'm not trying to change topics. Yeah, sure. Bump up the front-facing camera megapixels, that's fine. But what I'm really more concerned about is, can we actually get legitimate cameras in our laptops from Apple? I mean, we're still looking at like 720p-ish stuff. Like our phones' cameras for video conferencing and FaceTime are better than our laptop ones. So, yeah, it's not that great.
That's major problem on my Mac. So that's why I take up calls on my iPhone SE than my MacBook Pro.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the SE is still better than a MacBook Pro in the front-facing camera. I know it's still 1.2 megapixels.
That's right.
It's more clear in the phone than.
So, okay, well, hey, Felix, thanks so much for calling. Really appreciate it, okay?
Thanks, man.
All right. Okay, well, I wanted to jump in here and show you guys something from the actual chat that I thought was a really, really good point. This comes to us from Keith Rogers. Thanks for taking part and advantage of the super chat, Keith. Gotta show love. If you wanted, this does honestly help support me because I'm totally independent. But Keith Rogers basically wrote in with his own kind of thoughts here with Angela Arntz. She's the head of Apple Retail. He says she needs to go as well. I think her influence has led Apple to try to become a luxury lifestyle brand like Burberry, her former company. This hasn't panned out too well for Apple. And I think, you know what? This is a great point, but it also shows how things have changed because, right, there was a time where Apple was viewed as that high-end brand. I think it still is viewed as a brand with obviously a level of cachet, but let's be honest, Apple pushed the envelope too hard. They drove too hard to be like, you know what, whatever, $1,000 phone is worth it. Like they pushed that initiative, And sure, some people are like saying, oh, whatever, it's worth it. Again, 2 years back to back, I don't necessarily think it's worth $1,000. And now that you see what the market is like and what the industry is like and what competitors are like, is $1,000, when you really think about it and break it down, seems a little bit of a reach. All right, we have a bunch of calls. I'm going to try and get through a couple calls. We have also other comments from the chat that I love seeing. We will kind of show them as we go on, but I do want to take this call from our friend Bill. Give me one moment, Bill. Bill, welcome to the show. You're live. What's up?
How you doing today, Brian?
Doing good, doing good. And everyone, Bill was right on it. He's like, oh, I heard the call. I'm jumping on my call. I'll ignore the video stream so I'm not behind. Welcome, Bill. Thanks for hanging out with us. Really appreciate it.
And it's great that you're doing it live stream, man, especially so close to the new year, man. So
hey,
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to everybody. You know, we all love this stuff. We want to talk about tech. That's what we do, baby.
Yeah. So I kind of want to touch upon something that kind of just happened like in the past month, like the whole somewhat like box Bengate thing with the iPad. Do you think like there'd be any chance that like maybe Apple will swallow their pride and actually maybe replace those iPads that are getting bent in the box, or are they just going to see if this blows over throughout the couple months and piss off a bunch of them?
I think they're gonna try. I think they're honestly gonna just try and let it blow over. And the reason why, what kind of sticks out to me is, look. So first of all, I guess I have to eventually address it pretty soon. But we talk about Apple's recent projections from their earnings lowering it, and a lot of it has to do with, you know, them allegedly not selling enough iPhones in China and that market being an issue. But think about this. Remember when they knew this was coming. Like, they saw that it was coming. Imagine if they decided to be like, okay, we're also going to tell people about the iPad right now. We're not only going to drop a bomb about the iPad bending and make that a big old PR thing, but we also have this whole iPhone thing and our earnings thing to take care of. That would even make things look worse. And so my hunch is that, although let's say it's not affecting everyone, but it's actually tangibly affecting a good amount of users, and even multiple times I've had people write me in about the whole bent iPad issue. I think they're going to try and ignore it and hope that it doesn't become as widespread, even a bigger issue. And if it does, then they'll address it way down the line. We saw how they addressed like Bengate with the iPhone years later, touch disease years later,
and the battery issue.
Yeah, battery issue years later. So why would they? It doesn't look like it would be in their DNA to all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, the iPad Pro that just came out, that's our brand new product. Yeah, that's kind of screwed up too. If anything, if it becomes a more and more widespread issue, or if multiple people start filing class action lawsuits and it becomes that widespread, I think that's when you see them start taking action against it. But I wasn't happy about it. I mean, anyone that saw my video about it, I think it's total crap and unacceptable. But, you know, I'm not giving them a pass on it at all. I've just yelled about it enough that I don't want to yell about it anymore.
Yeah. You know, it's really sad, though, like, about this. I mean, like, I remember calling back about, like, the whole, like, stereo speakers thing back during the live stream after the Apple event, and now we're talking about this. It's kind of weird how, like, this year the Apple's kind of downward spiraling a little bit. Like, just at the beginning of the year, we're talking about, like, freaking, like, bending iPads and stuff, and now, like, it's just the quality of stuff through Apple is kind of going down. I mean, we haven't seen, like, the wireless charging pad or the wireless AirPods case for how long has it been announced? Like a year and a half, almost 2 years now.
And they said it would come by 2018, right? They said it would come, and it didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the other thing that's interesting about the AirPower, the whole AirPower kind of shenanigan and whatnot. So let's say like we have the AirPower coming in, right? And the other thing that I find interesting about it is that Apple completely removed it from their website. Apple, they didn't, if you try and search in AirPower on apple.com today, right now, nothing shows up. It's like it's non-existent. And we've never seen them do anything like that before with a product from what I can remember for a product that was expected to come out. I know there were plenty of reports how they had technical issues with making the wireless coils work because it sounds like a more sophisticated device than even they expected. And because it's so thin, a lot of cooling issues as well. But man, for them to just pretend like it doesn't exist and not say anything about it, and we're in 2019, that's kind of a big, that's an un-Apple thing. And one of my hopes for 2019 is that they don't do this whole thing now where they feel like they're behind the 8 ball. They've been showing us a lot of stuff before it's even ready. The HomePod, the AirPods, honestly, iOS 11 was announced last year. It got the features they promised 1 week before they announced iOS 12. We already saw all the issues that iOS 11 had. So there's a quality control issue, and I think part of that is because there has been a known departure of talent from kind of like the heydays and maybe that anal retentive nature or that hard driving nature that we as consumers benefited from, but behind the scenes, the people that work there didn't. That kind of culture shift has changed and is gone, and that's why we're seeing kind of this lack of quality. And quite honestly, Apple just needs to, instead of under-promising us, they need to under-promise and over-deliver instead of over-promise and then under-deliver. It's kind of like business 101. So I think they need to just get in touch with reality a little more and stop throwing these like big words and like, oh, courage and this and that, and kind of in a way humble themselves and be like, hey, we're going to deliver what we say when we say it, instead of like a year and a half later or not even seeing something.
Yeah.
Ooh, I heard the groan. I heard the deep exhale groan. You're like, damn. You're like, I want to love this company, but they're pissing me off. And I think a lot of people feel that way, honestly.
I know. I was even talking a little crap in the chat and saying like I'm actually on the fence on maybe I should get like the Google Pixel at the end of the year because, like, I mean I have a 6S now. Like I've had this 6S Plus for like a year and a half now, but it's starting to like shut down on me. I was like, ooh.
You're like, ooh.
And I never had like a pure Android experience, and now like the Google Pixel's out and like it's like flourishing like that. Maybe I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, thanks so much for calling, Bill. I appreciate everything. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Take care, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year, Brian.
All right. Okay, guys. I do want to show some love to the amazing. I think the best part of this stuff is when you guys all get crazy in the chat. So I need to just zoom in into, or I guess not zoom in, but just open this up to our amazing chat room over here, so you all get your love. You all just get your love here. So there were other questions that I saw while I played one of my other videos that addressed, I want to show love to the chat room. So we have a question that was put in chat from Darius Bizimana, and he's always, commenting on the videos. So I see you, Darius. Thank you so much. He asked, you think Apple is doomed because the iPhones aren't selling so well, or is it a sign that the iPhones are long time lasting, especially with iOS that supports a 6-year-old iPhone? I think the iPhone, first of all, let's get this out of the way. Like, the iPhone isn't doomed, right? Is Apple not going to be making as much money as they used to? And are they not on that crazy trajectory that they used to? Yes. And has reality actually kind of hit Apple? Yes. And so I want to tie this into kind of what happened recently, where Apple basically, before their official earnings, came out and said that, okay, our projections are lower because of issues related to the China market, the China trade situation between them and the U.S. But this was a really cool article that Bloomberg did. Got to give props to Shira Ovide. And what has really been happening behind the scenes, and Apple has seen this, but they haven't told us, is, and I'm going to show you this graphic here, is if you look carefully, I'm going to try and zoom into this so we can all see this. This graph here is showing the number of iPhones that have been sold. And if you look at the numbers versus being sold and then the revenue from those phones. Okay, so we have a dip here, but let's start talking about in Q1 of 2017. You see here that, look across this, you don't see any major jumps or peaks or valleys. Quite honestly, you see flat sales in general with numbers of iPhones sold. But if you look at this black line here, that's the revenue from the iPhones. That's all in the average selling price of those phones. So now we're at the point where we're talking about, okay, $1,000 phone. Are we willing to get that $1,000 phone? Are you guys on board with that? Well, part of this that Apple didn't say and factor in, and all the projections have been pointing to it, is that people aren't buying the iPhone nearly as much in this year specifically. You're not getting 10 to 10s upgraders. You're getting people that had earlier phones that upgrading. But while the sales of iPhones are flat, how did Apple have to kind of generate more revenue? By bumping up the average selling price as well. And so that's how they've been making up this difference. And then all of a sudden, this happened, right? The China markets and iPhone upgrades weren't as strong as they expected. And so now they're lowering their projections. People are like, oh, is this the end of Apple? Look, it's not the end of Apple by any means. Will they be making a little less money? Yes, but Apple is a beast. Apple is the beast. So I thought that graphic was really telling, because at the same time, you're like, oh, wow. Just like many of you have thought, because we don't look at these stats all lined up and projected at the same time. Like Apple has been bumping up those prices to make up for the fact that the sales have been pretty much flat year over year for the past year and a half or so. So there you go. All right, let's take some calls here to our friends at waiting for 19 minutes very patiently. Welcome. The area code is 917. Thanks for calling. If you talk directly with your phone and not through the video stream, we will be locked in. What's up? Welcome.
Hello, Brian.
Hey, who is this?
I'm calling from New York.
New York. Everyone says that. You're like, how many times you gotta hear that? You still gotta show love for your city.
Yeah. I was actually calling about the iPhone prices. You think with what they announced today, you think they might reduce the prices this coming year?
We'll see. Look, I think if they already started doing something that they've never done before, which was offering promos and really pushing like, hey, upgrade your iPhone to the XR for $400 if you trade in this. They increased the value of trade-in phones midway, which also shows they're trying to get trade-ins and they're trying to get people to upgrade their phones. The only look, the way that they lower the prices is if us consumers do not upgrade and continue to buy a $1,000 phone. So as long as that's happening, maybe they will. Something tells me though they're still going to be like a little stubborn. But if they're really hurting, we will see them drop that price. Maybe not this year, maybe not in this year, just because of the turmoil. They don't want it to look that way right away and hope that people kind of forget and then do it next year. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah, but the problem is if Apple makes their phone to last so long, then people are not going to really upgrade their phone anymore because the products are so good.
Yeah, I think that's
so. They're basically shitting on themselves by keeping the phones like. They're basically shitting on themselves by keeping the phones in use for so long. People don't want to upgrade no more if their phones are still working.
Yeah, you know what? I think the other issue here that people aren't talking about, and I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. I don't think and it's because the phone category as a whole has plateaued more, but they aren't innovating enough to convince people to get a new phone. Like the 10 to the XS was literally at the end of the day, when you look at it, when you really examine it and look at it, you just got a slightly better camera. You got a faster processor that you won't feel, and none of that extra processing power is really getting untapped. So you're left with a phone that looks pretty much the same as last year's. And again, I know it's catering more to people that have earlier phones, but the days of upgrading your phone year to year aren't happening, and Apple isn't pushing the tech hard enough. We've heard about what Samsung might be doing with their 10-year anniversary phone. Whether or not, it's ready to roll out, though, right? We're talking about 5G, a fingerprint in screen display, multiple potential quadruple cameras on the back, even more edge-to-edge glass design, and potentially no notch with now doing this kind of like punch hole design. Like, when you hear those four things, you'd be like, dang, if Apple did maybe two of those, I'd probably upgrade. But they're not. And so again, I think part of it is just that they know the ecosystem has so much power. They know that even if they release a phone that isn't the best, people are still going to get it. And I think the other thing that people may not be talking about when everyone says, oh, Apple is not as innovative as they used to be, I think part of it is because their priority and how they're making their decisions in their products is more driven by marketing instead of engineering. And you can kind of see that. And so when I say that, it's like, oh, let's just kind of talk about memojis as the number one thing for a phone. Do you think that an engineer really cares about memojis? No, they care about the hardware.
No,
A
I don't
memoji
think so.
thing is a marketing thing to me, right? That was a marketing play, and that shows how maybe things have shifted from engineering and marketing to just really marketing driving kind of more of what they're pushing out there. So that's kind of how I see it. But lower prices, we'll see. I'm not exactly sure yet. So.
Okay.
All right.
I hope so, because it's not really looking too good for them for the first time in 8 years.
Yeah, I know. It's not a good way to start 2019, but again, they're not going away anytime soon. They're in the big scheme of things, they still are fine. They need to figure out how to get people a little more excited if they want to stay in the game. All right. So thanks so much for calling, bro. Appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. So we have right now it is 1:49. We're gonna do this until 2. Mo A in the chat said dongles helped their $1 trillion line. Yeah. Craig K just chimed in and says, do you think that that Apple will ever release the Air Mat or the AirPower Mat? I think they will. A recent report says that they are reportedly ready to roll. So we'll find out. We'll see. I think that it would be a shame if that product never saw the light of day. Even if they have to redo things or tweak it, and maybe it's not what they envisioned at first, they need to get the AirPlay. Oh, hi, John J.H. Kim. Hi. Waves. Thanks for hanging out. All right, we're going to keep on taking a couple more calls. We're going to wrap this up at 2 p.m., but thank you so much for hanging out. I do want to send a reminder, ways that you can support me, because I am totally 100% independent. You can check out my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Brian Tong, and you can support me starting at like $2 a month to $5. What this supports, though, is I have a weekly audio podcast. It also helps support me continue to do all the videos that I do. We have bonus content and bonus exclusives on my Patreon, things like Apple Bits decal, a signed photo, access to bonus content, and early access to some of my stuff as well, while my phone is just like going off the hook right now. So, or my Apple Watch. So this is just ways that you can help support as well. And thanks again for so far. I have been doing this independent for like 9 months now, and we're just going to continue to keep on pushing and growing and see if I can do this, just do it like that. So appreciate it all. All right, let's waiting patiently for 25 minutes. We're not going to let you go. Jim, is this Jim or no? The call screener said Jim.
This is Jim. What's going on?
Jim, what's up, buddy? Welcome. Thanks for calling and hanging out. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you.
Yes, sir. Oh, what did you want to talk about?
I want to talk about privacy concerns. Obviously, 2018 has brought in a lot of privacy concerns with Facebook, Google, just, everything, phone apps in general. There's been a lot of talk about that, on who's tracking who when you shut off location services, that they're still tracking you. When you check an email, check the weather. Even if you have those services off, they still track you. A lot, and then obviously all the Facebook scandals. So I know Apple is a huge person to say, you know what, we're not going to sell your data. We're not going to track you. We're not going to advertise to you. We're going to keep everything private. iMessages private, your phone calls private, your emails private. We want nothing to do with it. And that's a big thing for a lot of people that go out and buy Apple devices. But my question is, that is, well, not really a question, but statement, that is what Tim Cook believes. Now, a lot of people aren't happy with Tim Cook, and a lot of people would like to see him outside, maybe get voted out by board members or anything like that to see their investments go up. But you have to weigh your decision on, we're not making money, and we have a person who believes in privacy. if we start selling all this information, we could see profits go up under somebody else. So I guess my question is, do you think something like that would actually happen if Tim Cook was no longer a CEO and somebody else on the board took over?
Well, I think you make a good point that part of the reason here, specifically with privacy, I think that Apple, where it has hurt Apple the most is specifically when it comes down to Siri and how the data it pulls and the speed of Siri, the reliability of it. There's ways that they can fix that by, quite honestly, first of all, just blowing Siri up, which I've talked about for a while, and doing something different. But when it comes to privacy, Apple's never going to be, they've kind of put a hard line in the sand that they will never sell any of customers' data from what we know, of the things that we know. So I don't think that's going to change because they're so hard line on that if for them to all of a sudden make a drastic change, it would be a slap in the face to its consumer base that does care about that. I think really they can stay on that. They can stay behind that line and not cross it. I think really what they need to do to generate more revenue is do this through different services and innovate their products more. And they don't have to sell a $1,000 phone to make a lot of money. They just need to sell a more innovative phone that makes us want to upgrade it. That's where they're going to start making more money. And yes, the phone has plateaued. So it's all about now these like cloud services, whether it's their Apple News service that's coming out, whether it's their Apple TV and movie streaming service. That's another way they can get revenue. I wanted them to do an Apple TV streaming over the air cable network, and that would have been another way for them to bring in revenue. They poo-pooed it, and now you have YouTube TV, Sling TV, PlayStation View. They're making money from that, and Apple's not. So the way that they can make more money and generate more revenue right now, because hardware is plateauing, is through services, and they don't have to cross that privacy line. I think that's what they'll probably do. It may not sound like the sexiest thing, but I think that's where they're at.
And then what do you, I guess my other question is, what do you think, this was something that was catered back in 2015, and it wasn't really talked about in the general public. It was kept privately. A little bit of it was leaked out, but when iOS started getting really big, and this is around like iPhone 5, there was a theory or a suggestion that Apple charge you monthly for your applications that are on your phone. So kind of like the service model now where we're paying monthly fee for everything that you use, like Netflix, you pay $10 a month, you pay X amount for this. What do you think about the idea of Apple taking the route where, hey, if you want to use the mail app or any type of mail app, it's going to be $3 a month to use that?
Yeah.
Or if you want to use the camera app, what do you think about spending $1 a month? And this is a real thing. This is a real thing that was introduced back in the day, and this would have crippled phones just in general. It would have crippled our entire infrastructure of network in general if this was the direction we took. But now I think we're on that brink of what do we start doing? Because ISPs are in control of everything when it comes to bandwidth. Apple's in control of their entire app store, which is only used on the iPhone, and there's a lawsuit going on with that right now as well. There's a lot of like little details, and I feel like Apple's just at that plateau where they don't know what direction to go, and they're also in talks about expanding their entire genre to possibly buying a Netflix-type company.
So the question would be, are you saying, are they going to do this, or
what's my question?
Sorry.
My question is, are they going to start? My question is, are they going to start charging like services like for iOS? Like, if you want to stay on iOS, that's fine, but it's going to be $35 a month.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that. Also, if you're sitting on nearly $1 trillion, or if you're worth $1 trillion, you're sitting on like something like $285+ billion in cash. No one's going to be, people will definitely switch, because it's not like iOS is like the cleanest operating system from a functionality standpoint over the past year and a half or so. That's a way to lose customers. So I don't think they'll do that. But to your point about, they're doing their own TV streaming service, whether or not I don't think they're going to acquire Netflix based on how they're kind of driving their own content now, but they really need to make money in other places. And specifically that's going to be in services and just innovate their hardware. I really don't see them doing that. But what would be really smart of them to do is if they put iMessage and made it available on Android and charged people to use iMessage on an Android device. I think people would actually do that. This is totally like, right? Like, would that ever happen, right? But they have Apple Music on Android devices. They actually at least have shown that they're willing to expand Apple Music, make it compatible with the Amazon Echo devices, make it compatible on Android devices, because they realize, at least when it comes to services, they need to put it on other devices. So how about this? Let's throw it out there. In 2 or 3 years, maybe, because everyone loves their iMessage, maybe, and if they see enough people leaving, which probably won't happen because of the ecosystem, I still think put iMessage on an Android device, that would be kind of interesting. It's just a crazy idea that we're just throwing out here for fun.
Code-wise, because I make Apple applications and Android apps, it wouldn't work because it's tied to the serial number of the actual motherboard that's in there. That's why you can actually get iMessage banned from Apple if you use it on a Hackintosh. People don't know that, but you can get like serial banned where iMessages no longer works for you. And yes, I've done it before.
I know this but also as a developer,
because we're talking about iMessages, I'll let other people ask questions and stuff. Just my thoughts for everybody listening in the room. Can we please switch the iMessage green bubble to like the one that is on the iMacs and the MacBooks to like the blue one? Like, I think that green one looks so ugly. Like, we need to change that icon.
Well, I mean, yeah, it would make sense to change the icon to blue because the messages are blue. So you make a very compelling point there, Jim.
Start a petition, Brian.
All right, I'll do it. I'll surely do it. I'll see you there. All right, thanks, Jim, for calling. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, so you know what? I know that everyone, when you all call in and stuff, it's like we always want to talk about Apple stuff, Apple. So what I want to do is I will still take the last 2 calls, but just real quickly, I'm going to shift gears. We're going to show CES is coming. I'm going to be there. We're going to show off some of the CES, kind of like the little quick preview video that I did in a moment. And then from there, we'll kind of talk a little bit about it and then wrap up the live stream. And then I think we'll be pretty good to go. So let me get this all queued up for a second, okay?
Hey, Daryl.
And yes, you're going to have to watch this ad because
Would
it's
you
an
choose
ad.
the network rated #1 in the nation by the experts or the one awarded by the people? Correct. You don't have to choose.
Oh, I'm going to skip it. Skip ad.
Small one. Now we know more home appliances
Rewind.
and devices are getting.
Here we go.
What's up? Brian Tong here, and CES 2019 starts in about a week from now on January the 8th to the 11th in Las Vegas, Nevada. You know, I'll be there to check out all the tech that matters on the show floor, but this video is about all the big trends that we expect to see there. And when you talk about CES, it almost always has to start with the TVs. You know, they're going to keep on getting bigger and brighter, and now even rollable. It's really one of the big tech toys that gets a lot of attention at the show. A few 8K displays have already been on display in the past few years. I mean, I even remember Sharp showing off a demo maybe as far back as 5 years ago or close to it. But yes, 4K is finally creeping into households as the norm for a TV set, especially when you can get them at a sub 1,000 price point today. So that means companies are really getting serious about 8K, whether you want it or not, need it or not, or even if there's little to no 8K content out there yet. Now, LG's rollable OLED TV that I got to see up close in person last year is expected to be available for sale in 2019. So, you know, it's got to make an appearance on the show floor instead of being in this like secret back room. And I'm also curious to see how Samsung's micro LED display has evolved after showing off that massive 146-inch modular micro LED panel that they call the wall, and really if we'll see it anytime soon. Now, the advantages of micro LED, it's thinner, it's more power efficient, while technically delivering an even brighter picture than OLEDs. This by no means signals the death of OLED, but the tech has implications really beyond just TVs. Now, also, phones at CES, they aren't as big anymore because all the phone announcements have migrated over to Mobile World Congress, which happens in February, but I'm guessing we'll be seeing some foldable concepts or hints by big manufacturers that they're working on them, like Royal's Flex Pi that still looks like a real early prototype. And I mean early, but we've seen them at CES before. We should see more of them as well. And also, if we're talking phones, you know that 5G will be a huge theme at CES, and some US carriers are expected to start rolling it out in 2019. So you can be sure we'll see a lot of demos of the technology around its speed, streaming video, and downloading content. I know it's not the sexiest thing, but out of everything, really everything on this list, it will have the biggest impact on us and really how the technology around us evolves. All right, next one, a big one. The smart home has always been one of, if not the top trend at CES, and it's one of the few platforms that really any company can have a stake in, whether you're a big guy or a small one. Now, we know more home appliances and devices are getting smarter, and the two companies at the center of that are Amazon's Alexa and the Google Assistant. I'm always excited, really, to see what new things come out of this, since we already have really a freaking microwave and a smart wall clock. I mean, anything is possible, but while that's going on, Apple's HomeKit, right? They're still on the outside looking in unless something changes in 2019. All right, but if we're talking about smart stuff, my dream gadget at CES 2019 would be to put the Google Assistant inside to be the brains of a Sony Aibo dog, so it could be your interactive robot pet and your smart home hub together. I know this is just a personal request, but it could happen. Come on, guys. Y'all could do it. Make it happen for me, all right? Another part of CES, Tech West at the Sands Expo, has evolved really as the place to showcase a lot of the latest health and fitness tech. And we're starting to see two of the big players like the Apple Watch Series 4 with its ECG capability and the Fitbit Versus focus on sleep tracking really signal more of a focus on health instead of fitness. Now, fitness tracking is not dead. We do expect to see some more sports-specific tracking devices, but right now, health tracking is becoming the priority as this category has evolved. And we're not forgetting you car heads, the vroom vroom. You can never forget about the whips at CES. And for the past few years, self-driving tech has been the focus. It still will be, but with the evolution of 5G, that's going to allow our cars to do even more with faster mobile data eventually when it comes. Now, augmented reality to heads-up displays on our windshields, they've been showcased in past years. They'll get even better, and alongside 5G, they will get, guess what, even better than that. And you've got to expect that the entertainment systems in cars will also get better as well with 5G delivery. All right, the car, still a real place where tech can explode, so forget about, right, Pimp My Ride. Tech My Ride is the new calling card for me, unless you have a Tesla already. Well, then, yeah, you're good. Plus, will we finally get the first flying car appearance at CES 2019? There's a lot of future concepts that show up, but that would be like a little personal request of my own as well. All right, CES 2019, it's the world's largest tech event. It's really the Super Bowl for tech, and it's this playground of ideas from people that are way smarter than I am that have a chance to showcase their vision. We know that some are good, some are spectacular, some are all right, some are bad, and a lot will never see the light of day beyond CES, but it's really what makes it special and amazing, and I am always excited to see it all. So I want to know, really, what are some of the things
Okay.
It just like see at CES 2019? Are there any big trends?
The other part about this, sorry, maybe my audio just went down. It did. Okay. So, sorry about that, everybody. Everything is back on track. I turned down the audio because the video was just kind of freaking out. One thing is I was not taking a leak, Jacques. I was here the whole time, and Rock-a-Roller, my hoodie was not on backwards, and a lot of people have been saying that, but it's called fashion. It's called fashion. Yes, that's what it is. Anyways, love to hear kind of if you guys jump in the comments just what you're excited seeing about. I love CES. I kind of put out like on Twitter, I was annoyed because I saw several tech journalists that are like talking about all this stuff is they're like, oh, I don't want to go to CES. Oh, CES is hell, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you guys, if you asked your high school version of yourself, you told yourself you're going to CES in Las Vegas, you would freak out. And I think that when you become jaded because, you know, you got to cover tech for a living. Come on. Like, that's freaking awesome. How many people would love to do that? Like, you know, I'm trying to make it happen on my end now. And it's like, you should feel lucky to. And instead they're like, oh, I'm so glad I don't need to go. It's like, yeah, that's sometimes some of the people you have to deal with in that world, if you know what I'm saying. All right. Hey, Zam wants a flying Tesla. Zam wants a flying Tesla. We'll get that for you. Okay, let me take, I know the last two calls might be related to Apple, but I'm going to try and take this one and hope it's about CES, just because it would just be nice if it was about CES. Welcome. Hold on. Hi there, what's up? If this is Al, I'm here. This is Brian. Welcome to the Q&A Live. What's up, Al? Is Al there?
With the stock market, about the Apple, it's all over the news in the past couple of days. They were saying that the iPhone's magic is dying gradually, and I don't know. I just want you to discuss what Apple need to do other than dropping the prices of their iPhones to improve the sales of their phones overseas.
Hey, Al, I think it's really simple. They just need to make better products that we care about, or new products that we care about, deliver on what they've already done. They're spread too thin now because they have so many things. I think part of the solution is simplifying their line, but when they say we want to make the best product possible, then don't give me 3 different iPhones. Just give me one iPhone, right? Tim Cook, the Apple followed what others were doing instead of just kind of staying in their own lane and being like, we're the best, we're going to do it this way. No, they started making like multiple versions of phones, and their margins went up. And yes, they made more money. They made tons of money. But guess what? They lost some of their identity by doing that. And so I think if you want to look back at where they were successful, don't do what everyone else is doing and really focus in on what makes your thing unique. And I think part of the problem is because you need a visionary, which is hard to find. It's not easy, but you need someone that has that vision that people can rally around. And until they find or figure that out, it's not going to happen, because vision by committee, and everyone knows this, everyone that has worked in a workplace, you get 5 to 10 people together in a room, everyone has different ideas, and that idea tends to get watered down. You get maybe 2 or 3 people that really know what they're doing, and then everyone else execute. It tends to, at least whether that vision is good or not, it moves in that direction. I think the employees at Apple, other than the past couple days, are happier because it feels more collaborative, and they're like, yeah, my idea is cool. Yeah, I never got to say these ideas when SJ was here. But us, the consumers, aren't really seeing the benefits of that. That's all. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for calling. Appreciate it, man. All right. Bye. Let's see here. Looks like we've got Jeff, and I'm going to wrap this up after Jeff. Jeff, what's up? Welcome. Thanks for hanging out so long, and love to hear from you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's going on?
Quick question. Sorry, it's not about CES.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry.
All right, cool. So I have a 2012, I'm in its own age, MacBook Pro.
Yes.
So none of my software works for my photo editing anymore, and I was thinking about going to the MacBook 18.
Yes, sir.
Because it has a USB-C. Should I just save a little bit of money and just go with the new the new tablet, the iPad?
Well, if you're going to be doing a lot of photo work and a lot of photo editing, and it specifically requires you to do a lot of specific touch-up that really requires a mouse, I would say this: until Photoshop comes out for the iPad Pro, I would hold off and wait, just because you don't, if you're really going to, depending on the level of photo editing you're doing. Now, if you're just changing contrast and balance, there's plenty of apps to do that. But if you're really like trying to like erase certain aspects, touch up certain dots on people's faces, I think you want to wait for a high-powered app. There are some that are out there. Affinity Photo is actually pretty amazing, and it might change your workflow. But beyond that, you might want to wait and see what happens. I'm not sure what level of photo editing you do, so that's probably the other issue. But I would really evaluate and look at the apps that you use right now, and the apps that you will end up using or want to use if you go specifically to an iPad Pro before you just make the jump and get it. I would never want to recommend, hey, yeah, sure, go get it. Yeah, it'll do it. And then it's like completely not is what for you. When people ask me what phone should I get, I ask them, what are the top 3 things that are important to you? I don't say, oh, get an iPhone, because it's not always as simple as that. So.
Yes, well, man, I appreciate your honesty. That's why I stayed on hold, because I know you'll keep it completely 100.
we got to keep it 100. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. But good luck to you. Been a big fan for a long time, and wish you the best this year.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right. Take care, and a Happy New Year. All right.
Same to you.
All right. Thank you. Okay, guys and gals.
Bye-bye.
I think that that is going to be it for today. Just another reminder, allowing me to do and continue to do this stuff independent. Check out my Patreon at patreon.com/Brian Tong. You can contribute there. Starts at $2 a month. We have a weekly podcast, but I do bonus episodes. We have exclusive content for you on the Patreon. Allows me to do this live Q&A as well. All the stuff that I'm doing, quite honestly, starts at the Patreon and drives it. And then we just keep on chugging along from there. So we will do another one next month. Thank you so much for calling. I know we talked about a lot of Apple stuff. I probably have to set the tone differently, because I don't mind you guys asking about anything. We could have talked about Aquaman, the movie. We could have talked about Bumblebee, like whatever. Tech, geek culture, life. You want some dating advice? I got good dating advice. At least that's what I tell myself. So, anyways, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate all the love so far, and continue to, if this is your first time here, subscribe, tell your friends about it. Keep on pumping out this killer content for all y'all. And I will see you at CES. If you're there, say hi. And if not, don't say hi, and I'll see you on the internet, all right? Take care, all right? Peace.